Hey guys, have you ever wondered how on earth you can apply classroom principles to real-life learning? Well, in this episode of Crash Course, we're going to dig deep into the concepts of relevancy and methodology. So hold on tight for this adventure that is completely not filled with boring prezzies or PowerPoints with wordy information. Dr. Parker. Excuse me.
Wait, pause, hang on. What the heck do relevancy and methodology even mean?
Great question. So according to the Glossary of Education, relevancy is defined as learning experiences that are either directly applicable to the personal aspirations, interests, or cultural experiences of students, or that are connected in some way to real-world issues, problems, and contexts. Methodology refers to approaches and sets of methods used in presenting the subject matter with the aim of achieving different specific objectives. Let's get started.
Wow guys, I'm really trying to stay up to date with current events in my classroom, but the newspaper just isn't cutting it. How do y'all stay up to date with current events that affect your kids?
Well, personally, I follow Time Magazine, NPR, and CNN on Twitter.
If you want to know the latest litigation or legislation changes, I would definitely recommend looking at the NCAE newsletter.
Are y'all both going to go to the professional development training on this Thursday? It's a workshop on classroom management.
Where do I sign up for that?
Girl.
Do you see these gray hairs? Those are from my kids.
Girl.
I need some help.
I definitely know the feeling. Today in my class, we were having a really hard time transitioning between activities. It was so bad after lunch, we didn't even get our weekly reader activity done. I had to assign it for homework instead.
Listen, speaking of homework, I've had so many parents complain about the amount of homework I'm assigning to their students. I feel real bad for it, but I don't know how else to prepare them for the EOG testing.
Girl, just bring that up at the school board meeting on Monday.
Current events. They're happening. They're current. They're affecting our classrooms all around the world. So how do we use current events in our classrooms to broaden the perspectives of our students? First, we must understand what it means to have a global perspective. Having a global perspective means understanding how situations around the world can impact you and your community, as well as understanding how your actions can have a global impact. As a teacher, you will have the responsibility of broadening the perspectives of your students in a huge way. This basically means that you need to teach them the lessons and skills that are learned in the classroom can be used in the real world situations outside of your room. You should also make them aware of events around them that are impacting them specifically. Whether the event is right in their own community or halfway around the globe, it is important and impactful for classroom learning.
This sounds like a big task, and that's because it is.
So because it's a big task, let's break it down for them. You can implement current events into your classroom by making sure that lesson plans and daily activities use current events to relate to the classroom and into the real world. Examples of this are reviewing weekly readers, watching Channel 1 News, which is my favorite, or simply guiding a discussion for your students about important current events.
Learning about current events will help students develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills. It will also encourage healthy discussion about differences in beliefs, opinions, and lifestyles. This helps build an appreciation for a diverse classroom.
Current events do not only affect student learning. Events pertaining to education, learning standards, and the economy can affect teachers and school communities in so many different ways. Ask yourself if you know how the current events in your community are affecting things like your pay, benefits, or your retirement. What you teach and how and where you teach it could also be affected. A teacher leader will be up to date on these things and can be an advocate for improvement. Haley, what you doing with that there feather pen?
I'm trying to work on this project for Dr. Parker, and it's taking forever.
And the feather pen's supposed to help with this?
Maybe.
Well, look at what you're trying to do with this thing. I mean, come on. Let's get you some 21st century skills up in here.
Well, where are we going?
We're going to go to Education R Us.
Yes.
It's actually pretty cool. You ready?
Really? I'm ready.
Let's go. Haley, wrong way.
Welcome to Education R Us. How can I help you today?
Hey, we're here to get some 21st century skills.
Oh, well, you've definitely come to the right place. We've got plenty of those. Let me show you over here. They're the most important skills. They're called the 4 C's.
Oh, Haley, those are the best. Get those.
Okay, so the first one is critical thinking. This is the ability to reason effectively, use systems thinking, make judgments and decisions, and solve problems. You're going to want to take this. Here you go. Oh, no. I'm going to take this. And we're just going to, yeah, okay. Now, and over here, right here, we've got collaboration. That is super important for success in the real world one day. Here you go.
Thanks. Do you have anything else cool here?
Oh yeah. Now, there are 2 more important skills. They're called communication and creativity. Ultimately, you'll need all of these skills to be successful in a 21st century society. So here they are. Now, it would be really smart to get the hang of these now. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Wow, this all looks really, really expensive.
Hey, just put it on your student bill. You'll be paying that off for years anyways.
True.
Haley, what's wrong?
I have got all these 21st century skills, and now I don't even know how to use them in my classroom.
Girl, it's totally okay. All teachers have to get super creative when it comes to teaching students these skills. Ultimately, you just have to make sure that your lessons apply to the real world and cause them to think outside the box.
But I've just got so many different kids, and they all think so differently.
Well, try to introduce them to things differently on different platforms and make it easier for them to generalize the information to other subjects. I love using tangible projects that make the students feel connected to their learning. It's all about catering to their different learning styles.
Now that we've gotten you caught up on relevancy, let's talk about methodology. Taylor, remind me what that is again?
Isn't it the approaches and sets of methods used in presenting the subject matter with the aim of achieving different specific objectives?
I think that sounds right.
Today, we're going to show you 15 methods of research-based instruction. The first method of instruction we're going to talk about is cooperative learning. This is when students break up into small teams to improve their understanding of the subject. A specific type of cooperative learning is called jigsaw. Jigsaw involves splitting the class into different groups. Each group is responsible for their own topic. Each group member is in charge of understanding their subsection of that topic. Each team is responsible for being an expert on their topic so that it can be taught to the class as a whole.
The next method we're going to talk about is the process of summarizing and taking notes. This method challenges students to use higher order thinking skills to determine what is important. A strategy that you can use to teach your students how to write these notes is called one-sentence paraphrase. After teaching the material, you can ask your students to write a topic sentence that summarizes all of the information. This gives your students to really analyze the information and figure out what is really important. Having students keep a response notebook is a good way to help them become self-aware of their own learning processes. An example of this would be to have each student keep a journal for a book. As a teacher, you could provide writing prompts for each journal entry that causes them to consider their thoughts. This writing assignment challenges students to put their own thoughts into coherent sentences on paper. And this is also helpful for you to follow their progress.
Scaffolding is a method that involves guiding students along the way until they can complete a task individually. If you were going to teach a student how to tie their shoe, you wouldn't demonstrate it once for them and then expect them to have it down pat. An effective way to teach them would be to show them each step and have them try a little at a time. You would help them until they could complete each step alone, and then you would test them to see if they could put the different steps together. This method of guiding students to their specific goal is called scaffolding.
Identifying similarities and differences. This method has been proven to really require students to think critically. Basically, you as the teacher would give students the assignment of comparing and contrasting 2 different subjects. As an example, you could get students to compare events, poems, or historical figures, state how they relate to each other, and ask them to justify their comparisons. Using targeted feedback is basically giving your students effective feedback on their assignments, and it serves the purpose of improving students' achievement. In order to provide effective feedback, it should directly link back to the original learning objective. Make feedback specific and give it in a timely manner. The most important part of feedback is explaining how the student can use it for improvement.
Homework and practice is a method that allows students to carry their lessons home to help them stick in their minds. Some students learn better in a different environment than a classroom. Homework allows them to sit by themselves and focus alone, rather than being around other students.
Discovery and inquiry is a method that is most commonly used outside of the classroom. A student can gain different understanding of a topic by experiencing this idea in real life. A great example of this concept is going on a field trip. While on a field trip, a student can gain real-life version of what they are studying, and they can gain a better understanding of what they are learning. It also gets them more engaged by having a change instead of sitting in a classroom. By changing their classroom setting, students become more interested and engaged in their learning. Seeing different things that spark their attention is always a good thing.
This method allows the teacher to focus in on some of the important details in the class. Teachers can expand on the topic they are studying, letting their students think harder about what they are talking about. This also allows students to dig deeper into what they are interested in. Some students may figure the things out about a topic they've never thought about before. It can also help to focus students on the bigger picture of their topic, letting them see a little into the future of what they're going to be learning.
Learning centers allow students to play or participate in a fun activity while learning. As these students play and discover with one another, the teacher can ask effective questions that will allow her students to take different lessons away from something that was fun. This also allows teachers to help different groups of kids, ones that might be struggling and those who might be excelling. Those who are struggling can start at the basis of the activity, putting together the basic building blocks of the topic and seeing how it starts out in the beginning. The more advanced students can go beyond the basic start of these ideas. They can start to piece together more complex ideas and go beyond the simple idea of the lesson.
Hands-on learning is exactly what it sounds like. It is basically a method that encourages students to physically do something in order to learn or understand it. An example of this would be fraction manipulatives to teach addition with fractions. An abstract concept can become easier to grasp when students can work with their hands. This applies to other subjects as well, and that is why it is such an important learning method.
Non-linguistic representation is the ability to store information into the brain using different forms of learning, imagery being one of the main topics. Because language is such a common way to communicate in the classroom, we as teachers need to provide multiple instruction strategies in order to make the children understand the points we are trying to get across.
A debate is a discussion in which two opposing sides try to argue their points. This can be a very effective teaching method because it allows an opportunity for students to look at alternative viewpoints. It also challenges students to improve their communication skills and makes them think critically about their own viewpoints. The skills learned from this method can be applied to other areas of life as well. Graphic organizers are a very helpful method of learning when trying to deal with numbers and more than one of a particular thing. Graphic organizers are basically a method that use the idea of organization to compare different ideas and concepts that are being taught. This particular method is related to direct instruction, a very straightforward method that teaches the pros and cons of a particular topic. An example of this could be story maps, knowledge maps, or etc.
Thanks for watching this episode of Crash Course. We hope you learned a lot about relevancy and methodology.